Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Curious Realms continuing coverage of PSI Games 2025 right here in Charlottesville, Virginia. We have the great pleasure of being joined once again by our good friend Carl McClellan from Vantage Point Remote Viewing.
How you doing, Chris?
Doing great. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
Welcome back to the shores of the United States. Also, thank you so much for my vial of dirt from the grave of Vlad Dracula. I cannot thank you enough for that, for my collection.
You're welcome.
It's been a while since you have been on the show. We had a chance not too long ago to visit with you and go take the Vantage Point Remote Viewing course in Austin, which was absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
I will say, myself as a viewer, it definitely transformed the way that I perform a session. It really gave me some really awesome new tools and broke through a few barriers that I've had as far as you know, I studied controlled remote viewing with Lynn Buchanan, and there were some things that I loved about that protocol that were great, self-checks, things like that, but there were a few things that I kind of found as hurdles as I went along on my remote viewing journey, and you really, I think, opened up a few concepts for me, and really the idea that you have of this not just being a mental martial art like Lynn Buchanan says, but more of a mixed martial art. The idea of you really need to study numerous disciplines so that you can find what works best for you and kind of cherry pick that data and build your own system.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about the Vantage Point system, about how you guys take people through the journey of remote viewing.
Well, first of all, what we found, and what I found when I was teaching, is certain people, through no fault of their own, were struggling on maybe a particular thing, ideograms or another form. And whilst I believe it needs to be structured and formatted, people learn in different ways, regardless of education, intelligence. You know, some people are visual, some people are sort of tick-tock mindset.
Yeah.
Some people can hear things, some people like to read it. So I come up with a way that it introduced all aspects of remote viewing, the main ones, and it was given then the viewers are told to follow it through the training. After that, they can choose to pick which they want. And what they're doing is selecting a bespoke method from that which works best for them. For instance, as you know, I don't do ideograms, and ideograms are great. People love them. They don't work for me. And this is what first started it out with myself thinking, what can I do? So for me, I close my eyes, sometimes keep them open. I use my non-dominant handle lock to hover over or literally touch the paper, or maybe a sketch or a word, and information will come. So what we do in the training, and obviously, as you say, you've taken it, is we offer ideograms and then try the non-dominant hand, keep your eyes open, close, and in the end the students sort of click with what is best for them, because at the end of the day the goal, as I always say, is as much data and impressions as you can collate what correlate with the feedback target, and within reason, providing it's structured, it doesn't really matter how you do it. The name of the game is to be a great remote viewer. So by applying choices like a buffet, where people can go and say, well, I don't want steak every day or lobster, I want a salad and some soup and maybe some ice cream. They select what's best for them, and they can change it depending on the mood, how they're feeling themselves emotionally, the area, or even what type of remote viewing it is. It could be an esoteric target. It could be, you know, maybe a child's gone missing, obviously very serious, and people want to jump on that and find the kid. What does it matter which method you use? If you are comfortable with a particular method and the poor kid's found, that is the name of the game.
That's the method.
Absolutely.
That's the method for that system. And you know, that brings up a really good point with especially modality and the idea of how you get to data and how you pull that data out, because if you are just stuck in one modality, it can be hard to maybe synesthetically connect with other things, you know, or even to receive information as a receipt. instead of something that you need to filter out. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with at the beginning. I did. And it wasn't until, and we've had the conversation on the show before, Carl, about the idea between ecstatic meditation and remote viewing, and how, sure, they're both trying to reach a point of ascension, but it's through two different methodologies.
Absolutely.
And that connection when it comes to remote viewing is different than it is with meditation. As opposed to putting blinders on the horse and making them focus ahead, you want to give the horse as much view as you can.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, as opposed to silencing the monkey mind, it's giving the monkey a typewriter and saying, just give me all the data you can.
Well, you're spot on, Chris. This is why I come up with the name Vantage Point. It does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
It gives each individual remote viewer a particular vantage point bespoke to them. It's like I always say, if you drew a circle representing an island, and there was a palm tree on one side and a turtle on another, a surfboard on another, and a beach ball on the other. Not every remote viewer will see all of that.
Yeah.
One will get the turtle, one will see half the turtle and half the palm tree, and one will get another viewpoint. So by doing it the way Vantage Point do it, everybody gets, and it can interchange. This is the beauty about it, of what they want to do. When I remote view, especially on missing people, right, I will bring in, I'll meditate, fire straight into it, bypass the ideogram, write the target number, what's been assigned, and straight away I'm getting descriptors, just basic descriptors, sketches, and then I unfold it from there. I'll throw that to a master sketch, a deep dive, and of course the all ever important, most underrated summary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, if it's not for a remote viewer, it will be in layman's terms, and there you go. Also, I'll incorporate forensic mediumship. That's where I'll know, usually, if the missing person has passed. Then I will try to connect with them. And the reason it's called forensic is because what you're asking them is to show you, for instance, where it happened. Was they murdered? Was it an accident? Is there any blood trail? And what you're trying to do is get information for law enforcement, for search parties, dead or alive, let's call it what it is.
Sure.
That person needs to be recovered. If not to just give the family closure. But we're all hoping they're alive, of course.
Sure.
And this is what it does. And any way you can do this, providing it's in a formatted structure, and you have the beauty to interchange and say, for example, hypothetically, I don't want to use a pen today, I'll use a pencil, I'll use a fountain pen. It's good because it's associated to where you feel on that given session.
Yeah.
And you've got all these tools, and you just, I'll use this one, I'll use this one. If this is not working, I'm going to try that. And bam, and it unfolds.
Well, and especially when you're talking about using the different forms, it really is something that it activates different parts. It's kind of like being a multi-instrumentalist.
Of course.
I don't, as somebody who spent years in audio engineering, I don't know a drummer that doesn't play something else, or that can't play something else. It's the idea of, well, that's just because it's got strings doesn't mean it's not a percussion instrument.
Yeah.
So seeing that marriage and seeing that synergy between different techniques, that synergy between whenever I use this technique, I tend to get this kind of data more. Because like you said, you could target 5 different people in this room with the exact same target on a desert island. Are they going to pick up the same details? One person may be better at picking up the environment, while another person's better at picking up objects.
Of course.
And you may be better at picking up people. So number one, that's why you have teams of remote viewers.
Absolutely.
Typically, like Lynn Buchanan says, data, data, data. And when you properly database things, then you've got a database of viewers that can tackle this, can tackle that, can have different modalities for different projects.
Yes.
So you can definitely hone a team to a subject or to a target a whole lot easier that way.
Absolutely. I mean, what we have in place, and it's not uncommon, these other remote viewing teachers use it, is, as you know, the physical profile.
Yeah.
Now, that can be used to find certain illnesses or issues around the body, but it's also great for, I don't know, an escaped convict and he's on the run, and law enforcement need to track him down.
Yeah.
He's a danger to the public. You know, this guy needs to be apprehended. And what would happen there is they'd look for distinguishing features. Oh, he's got a tattoo of an eagle on his neck, or he's a digit missing on his left hand. And these are all important details. Also, we go into the conscious exploration, which again you've done on the course. Where you can really dive deep inside and get a lot of information. It's so underrated that the intel you can extract and start collating and putting together.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I'd taken part in outbounder exercises before I took your class, and I will say that, I'm given to emotion. Don't get me wrong, but there were parts, especially in the forensic dive that we did, which was Sharon Tate. The target was Sharon Tate from the Manson murders.
Correct.
And there were parts in that where, like, I was overcome with emotion while I was viewing.
I remember.
To begin with.
You had a great connection.
It was tough. It was rough. But as somebody who is an empathic person, it really dawned on me that, well, wait a minute. It might be the fact that I'm somebody who can tie into people in that kind of way by a distance. And that's important in investigation. Like you said, especially the physical medical profile that we did. That is a huge thing for police and investigators, especially if you've got a missing convict or something like that, to know that, you know, along the way during his escape, he's possibly been hobbled on his left leg. Things like that, like tracks change, the way that the person's walking, gait. All that kind of stuff can all lead to the identification of a suspect. I mean, those are biometric things that we have cameras looking for.
Of course. And you mentioned the session you did there, and what you did, which was amazing. It was a great session. I remember it. You nailed it. And what you've done is turn your emotion and put it to use.
Yeah.
Right? So you got the emotion, you got the feelings, somewhat upsetting. Obviously, you know, people know about the Manson infamous history. And what you did then, you controlled it, turned it, and become somewhat calculated as to, I'm going to use this now, this emotion, this empathy, right, with my remote viewing experience and training, and collate that data. Well, and that's what you did, and put pen to paper and bang.
And the one that blew my mind after that, Carl, was in that viewing, I had put down that there was a sharp pain in the neck. That there was pain to the neck. And even though it was post-mortem, Sharon Tate had been strung up from the rafter. I didn't even remember that until we were at lunch and I started looking up the Sharon Tate case, and I was like, oh my God.
Absolutely.
She was hung. And that one really blew my mind. The fact that I had picked something like that up that was a post-mortem injury.
Yeah. And do you know what you're doing there? This applies, as far as I'm concerned, on the overlap into forensic mediumship, because what you're doing, you may not be connecting, you know, like you see on the TV, oh, Sharon stood there and it looks great and all Hollywood. It doesn't work like that. What you're picking up is a pain and injury in the neck. This is exactly what mediumship part of it is about. And obviously the lady is passed, no longer with us, and had an unfortunate episode. But what you're doing is getting that pain in that area, and then you're turning it into actual physical data, pen to paper, and saying, I felt a pain in the neck, I believe this, and you're putting it down. So then your manager, your project manager, whoever's working with you can go, wow, Chris, bump, 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 bump. And they think, wow, it is. Look at that. You picked up on that. So the emotion and empathy there, you absorbed it, a little bit overwhelming. I've been there, I've had tears rolling down my eyes with some, literally. And then okay, come on, Carl, put your big boy pants on, this isn't going to help. You get the feeling now, turn it. And that's exactly what you did and nailed it.
Well, and that was once again a hard one to go through, and it was hard to power through and to get through. But that leads to the question, especially when it comes to mediumship, because you had studied spiritual mediumship before you studied remote viewing.
Correct.
And most of the people, we did that class at Nature's Treasures. Shout out to our friend Nance and everybody at Nature's Treasures for helping us put on that class, because the one thing that I noticed, especially at Nature's Treasures, a lot of the people were mediums.
Correct.
They had already been through mediumship. They'd done that kind of stuff. And their approach was a little different. And I bet there were a few things that I had some problems with some of the stuff, because I thought it the fact of going too definite with an answer. And like I said in my talk earlier, as a show host, I will always say, this is my educated opinion. This is what I think. This is what I believe, given the facts at hand. I will rarely give a hard line like, I guarantee you by next December, we're going to have hard deed disclosure with UFOs, folks. I am not going to put that prediction out there. I'm going to take that quantum aspect, and I'm going to go, this is what I think will happen. There could be 85 mitigating circumstances between A and Z here, So how do you, as somebody, and for any mediums out there that are considering taking on remote viewing as part of their toolkit, how do they begin to draw that separation between what they would normally feel as a medium? And I'm not saying doubt what you feel as a medium. How do you take that to paper and still have the objectivity of remote viewing?
So it's all about control, self-control and discipline. The discipline applies from taking the formatted course, which is obviously structured. You get all the tools. So it's like a carpenter having an array of hammers and saws and different things. Then when you've learned how to apply them and receive the information, bring in then on one of your targets, as you know, there's quite a few over the course, then bring it in, especially if we say target is a subject. It's a great one for anybody who's a medium with months or many years experience to then connect, just as you would as you're doing your remote viewing session, bring it in, and like exactly, you're the great example here. The neck, the pain, you've just pinpointed all over the body one specific area. And you've described it's a pain, it's a throb. I'm feeling a little bit literally choked. I can't breathe, my chest is tight. Whatever has happened. I've known people who have connected forensically with mediumship with a particular subject, describe something sharp going into them. And it's a shame, but they've been stabbed to death and they've connected with it. Now, things like I've had one where I literally saw a young lady beaten to death with a revolver, a wheel gun, over her head, and then shoved in like this much water and drowned. And I remember it was many years ago, as I was viewing this, tears just flowed down my face. And it was overwhelming. Now, I've seen a lot of death and blood. Does it bother me? Yes, it does, of course.
Sure,
I'm
human.
However, looking at that, part of it was because it was after the fact and I couldn't do anything. In the real world, if I saw a lady in that happening, I would have dove on the bloke, give it my best shot, and told her to run and call 911. Right? But you can't, so you feel helpless. But here's the thing which you've just mentioned, the discipline then of literally wiping the tears away or the emotion and come on, compose and recenter, absolutely, and go, put all these emotions to good use. Use it. Use that emotion. That is power. What the emotion is intel. It's data. Turn it round, collate a bit more, descriptors, sketches, questions, answers, movement commands, and then your summary is going to read a great report, actual and factual, every time.
Well, and, with that in mind, Carl, especially when it comes to that connection, because it's one thing for an outbounder, you are specifically tying into a person. When you're viewing something like this, there is definitely that point of consent that you want to ask of the spirit that you may be viewing, the person whose death you may be viewing, things like that. Just the same thing with mediumship.
Absolutely.
The idea of like, do you consent with me to find out your story? Do you consent with me to enter your energetic space, spirit? Because if not, you good luck, medium.
Yeah, exactly.
And any medium that tells you that's not the case, you may want to consider that.
Yeah.
Because there is a point of consent all around, and we have to consent not only to be a part of that moment, but we also have to consent to release that moment, Carl, and that's something that Lynn Buchanan talks about regularly on the show. Is you think you may want to use this for helping trafficked people, helping murder victims, like people like Pam Coronado, who regularly works with law enforcement. That's literally what she does with her skill. But there's also something there that if you don't know, especially with mediumship, things like that, if you don't know how to clear that and reground, and even with an outbounder, the visualization of cutting that cord so that you are no longer connected to that person while you do feedback.
Correct.
Stuff like that, and then of course, even at the end of a summary, writing that all important end session.
Yes.
Like end session, so that your brain checks out. How do you begin that moment of cutoff? How do you teach people, especially when doing forensic work, things like that, how do you teach them to cut off from that experience? Because it's visceral. It's visceral, man.
Very. Well, like you said at first, the main thing when you start to connect is respect. And it's not only professional, it's ethical.
That's right.
Right? You have respect for the person who's passed, the subject, but you also, which you come up with a great one, have respect for yourself. You ask permission, but you also, and another great one, is give yourself permission.
That's right.
Give yourself permission to say, look, so you're saying to, I don't know, Mr. Smith, who's passed, look, all my intention is to help you. It's positive and it's with love. That's what I say. It works for me.
Yep.
Is this okay? Do you give me permission? I've never been refused yet because I don't go in with ulterior motives and I'm upfront. Then I take a moment and I give myself permission to not only receive the feelings, like you mentioned with the lady's neck, and the emotions, but also it's like having a talk with yourself very quickly, like a brief talk. To then ask for the emotions to stop. Okay, and I do it by thinking, okay, thank you, I have that. Can you please take it away? Okay. And then otherwise you get overwhelmed. And then by doing that, and it comes with training and self-discipline, then I would sort of sit there, I've got the information, I'm thinking, oh my God, this particular subject has been murdered, it's horrific, it's a gunshot, I don't know, a robbery, and I can see things, and then I will keep saying, come on, and when I've got enough, I will say, thank you so much, stay there, just let me collate this, and then I sort of left brain. Right, I've got that, then all down, and then if I need to go back, it's back in the zone. I call it my invisible basket. I go in, I'll collate what I can, but I don't overload. When I've got enough, I come out, unleash it on the paper, then go back in. And at the end, I always, and again, as you mentioned, it's not a definite for everyone.
Sure.
I love what you said because I always say, in my opinion,
That's
just
right.
for me.
That's right.
And then I will thank the subject and say, thank you so much. I hope what I've done is enough, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to get this, to the authorities or whatever I'm working on with this, or whoever's in charge, and hopefully something positive will come of it and give your family closure and so forth. Thank you so much. With love. I always say with love.
Absolutely.
Right, because that is the most powerful energy ever, in my opinion.
That's right.
Then I take a minute, because I may be, eyes watering or overwhelmed and like, there's some nasty things you see. It's not for everyone. It isn't. Can you locate my purse? I left it in a theatre or somewhere last week, or a restaurant.
Any viewers out there? I am looking for my wedding ring.
And I'll make a great target. And then I compose. And what I'm composing is, and I'm actually wriggling my toes, and I'm sort of feeling the ground again. I'm back. You've got to tell yourself that for me. So wriggle your toes and I just touch my knees, little tap, and think,
reality.
Oh, I'm back here. I'm in an interview with Chris. I was remote viewing. And then it's memory. So straight away, what did I... pen and paper, bum, 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 and it's all there.
Yeah. Now, in the last few minutes, you had a chance while you were here to go lab rat.
Yes.
And literally, because I've had so many questions from so many people for so long. One of the questions that I get asked regularly, believe it or not, is why not just put the target in a Faraday cage? That'll block them. I'm like, it absolutely does not. That does nothing. One of the great experiments that I bring up all the time whenever people bring that up is, of course, the Uri Geller, where he was affecting the gravitometer 60 feet underground. Like, he's nowhere near that thing, nowhere near it, and creating a force with his mind that was able to make a gravitometer go off in a secured facility in the basement under the building. So, no, you could put somebody in a Faraday cage, you could put the object in a Faraday, you could put the Faraday cage in a Faraday cage. It ain't going to make a difference because of non-local consciousness. So, how did the experiments go for you? How was the lab work? Did they find anything while you were there, while you were plugged up? I gotta know.
Right.
I gotta know.
So I was put in a Faraday cage. It's a room within a room.
Yep.
So it's sort of like 4D. Mm-hmm. And nothing can get in or out. And it's locked like a submarine door with everything in it.
Yeah.
Linked to the computer. You've got a skull cap on. There's 128 wires. These like suckers, God knows where, all over you, and they're monitoring everything. And you sort of give a target, and then you have your cool down, and you do the session, and then you see the feedback. Now the data, and I've actually asked for it when it gets released, is months away, because they're going to have to compile it.
Yeah.
And what they're interested in mostly, I was talking to David Aconzo, great guy, French guy, spent a lot of time adult life in the UK, and now obviously he's in Virginia. He's a professor at the university, sort of heading this trial. And I asked him, I said, is it important on the rating, say off the TARG scale, 0 to 7?
Sure.
And he said, no, it's great if you get stuff, but what we're looking for, because it's formatted that you have to, and there's cameras on you, you have to put your hands wherever you like, and then you physically have to pick the pen up so they can see and then watch the data. Write down, and then put your pen down and move your hands back wherever you want them. So now they know you're remote viewing.
There is a separation between the resting state and the viewing state.
Absolutely.
Brainwave-wise.
Yes,
absolutely.
Brainwave. And it's quite amazing how it goes. And it's picking up all these things. And this will be very interesting once the data's released, which is apparently a few months away, maybe even early next year. But so that was very interesting. It was 5 days.
Ooh.
One target in the morning, one target in the afternoon, straight across the 5.
Now, let's just go your first session. What did you view? What were your results? And what was the target?
Right. Session, I was picking up a joint. What I mean by a joint is, at first, my first sketch was a slim sort of stick-like object, and on this angle, and then another on that, okay? So it was like 90 degree, but there. And the focus was on a pin in the middle, so I knew it opened and closed.
Okay.
And then I was getting power. This is powerful. It will spring open. Whoa. And then I went off a bit and thought, is it something like a bridge stanchion, a support? No. Is it like Tower Bridge opening for river traffic, boats?
Yeah.
No, but it's like it, power like hydraulics. Whoa, I can feel the force. And it turned out it was a greyhound and a focus on the back leg.
Oh, wow.
And obviously the main power from a dog or like a horse is the hind leg.
The spring.
Boosh, you know, like the trap. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is wild, man. That is wild. And I cannot wait to see the data from this stuff. And I know before the IRVA conference coming up, sadly I won't be able to be there, but there are days of labs going on before the IRVA conference as well.
Correct.
And I was like, oh my God, I wish I could be there for all
And it's
of
the
that.
first of its kind, this one, what they're on, yeah. So
that's you know, this event itself is a first of its kind. And I am so excited to see it because, you know, it's a different kind of conference. There's conference, there's speakers, there's vendors, all kinds of things. But more importantly, there's the competition. And there's the friendly competition of how can we learn from each other? How can we compete against each other? But also, how can we bring this to the next generation?
Yeah.
And that's something that
I just want
I'm all
to
about.
quickly say, you mentioned in your talk I attended earlier this morning, that is the thing. I say, look, it's a conveyor belt. We're all remote viewers.
Yeah.
Different age gaps, right? Across the spectrum. However, there's this conveyor belt of life, and we end up tipping off, shall we say?
Yeah.
Right? Where is the new blood?
Yeah.
And you mentioned a great thing. We need the kids involved.
That's right.
Right? Just how to approach them, like you say, maybe an app, maybe a prize, right? Because they're a different generation. We are old ats, you know, and boring to kids. You want teenagers, you want 20-odd-year-olds, even 30-odd who's never experienced it, coming in, so it's a continuous conveyor belt.
That's right.
Because finally, the great ones, even us, a little bit younger but no spring chickens, we're going to fall off that conveyor belt.
That's right.
And it cannot run dry.
Yeah.
If it runs dry, it's screwed.
Oh, and that's just it. You know, it's one of the catchphrases of this show is, "Can we make science sexy again? Can we please? Can we make it sexy again?"
Yeah.
Because otherwise, how do we get kids excited about science? You know, and this is one of those, as I said in my talk. Science is rapidly coming to meet us. This is one of the only parapsychological disciplines out there that was birthed in the lab. It was birthed alongside science. It's not like science tried to prove ghosts the whole time, or the Loch Ness Monster, or things like that. Even though they're on the trail, they're doing that stuff. It's fantastic. But it wasn't birthed alongside. Remote viewing is literally something that was birthed in laboratory work.
It's also like certain classes in school which are not for everyone when we've gone through school as kids, and you're bored. You know, maybe you don't like the maths, the English, the science, and you're, oh God, I wish the bell would ring.
Yeah.
You've got to make it fun. You've got to make it interesting. So people go, hey, do you know what? I want to go at this.
Yeah.
I want to have a go.
Well, and that's the conversation that we were having with Ellie Molina earlier, is the idea of, in the West especially, we have a very clipped-in view of this. When you start looking at Latin American cultures, Eastern European, Asian, these are things that are not strange to them. You know, like when I interviewed Thiago Tiechi, the sole MUFON investigator in Brazil, one of the countries with more UAP sightings than anybody else. There's one investigator, and I was like, "What about the Amazon? Tons of oil fields, things like that out there. Tons of forestry. Whenever you go out there to take a witness statement, anything like that, do you ever talk to the native population?" He's like, sure. I was like, what did they say? He's like, well, it's nothing strange for them. It's like they don't come hey, it's 3 days on a boat one way for them to come make a report to me. So they ain't doing that. But even when I'm there, they look at me strange because this has been with them for generations. It's nothing for them to see lights in the sky of the Amazon. They've talked about it in their stories for the last 100, 200 years in their tribe.
That's like going to London and saying anyone has seen a red buzz.
Yeah, so when you're talking about Eastern European, other countries, these things, these abilities are something that are almost curated within families.
Yeah.
Much like you, like you said, you have a history of tea leaf reading and things like that in your family. Those are things that are frequently passed down within familial line, because of that want to keep something in the family alive. It's not necessarily the way here in the States.
No, and the same, I think, in the UK and a lot of Western Europe, where the South America, Latin America, Eastern Europe, they more cultivate it and bring it through the generations, so there's no surprise. And they accept it, whether they believe or not, it's a personal thing, but they accept, there's another, and it's no surprise, and they have information with that being passed down, how many times, what the grandfathers think, what the fathers think, the mothers, and I think that's great. Don't be shy of it, and somebody's going to think I'm an idiot. Talk about these things.
Well, and especially, I think, sadly, there was a great birth, but also dearth of things that happened at the same time with the whole spiritualist movement back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, both in the UK and here. You start looking at people like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, stuff like that. He was considered to be one of the best scientific minds and things like that. But at the same time, it was like, hey, you just kind of like jumped whole hog into those fairy pictures. And they're just real. And even here in America, when you're talking about people like Harry Houdini going out and making it his mission at the end of life to disprove spiritualists who were taking advantage of people because they wanted to contact their dead loved ones and stuff like that.
Right.
So I can see how that definitely had an influence, because all of that was happening right alongside Madame Blavatsky and all of that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to see how both of those sides were fully active at the same time.
And what I like about it is, obviously, then they were referred to the jokers, the liars, if you like, as charlatans. But the beauty about anything with the UFOs is data. With the remote viewing, it's okay. Here's a target, do a session, like the PSI Games with multiple competitions across the spectrum. It's right. Can you do it? Do it. And you're getting hard facts. I know you're very big on data. I love data. It is proof. It's factual evidence. Or you can dismiss certain things, and it's put what I call through a filter, a prospectus pan, I like to call it, when it's sifting for gold. So it's all thrown in. Okay, fine, get that in. And in the end, you filter out all the rubbish and mumbo jumbo, and then these hard facts. Those are your nuggets. Where you go, here we go, and you can say why, and these to go in reports. So yeah,
absolutely. And that's once again my favorite thing about this discipline is the fact of it is data based. It's about the data that you call, the data that you get during a session, and how that data can be applied. And if only the rest of parapsychology could follow suit, I think we would be in a great place, because once again, all of this is rapidly culling together and coming together.
Correct. So. It is. It's starting to gel. And one of my favourite parts is the analysis. I love it. And just ripping everything apart, respectfully, of course, and getting that gold nugget, juicy data.
Well, because it's one of those, sadly, I'm one of those celebrate your misses. I think you should celebrate your misses, because that's where you learn. There's not a baseball player out there that learns by hitting a home run every time.
You made a great example with the basketball court with your son, right? And I just want to say, everyone, I've got his autograph today, okay? There you go, little guy.
It's the head of the curve.
And not ask self, oh, I missed. Why did you miss?
That's
and
right.
This is the beauty of going over your feedback with remote viewing. You can usually come to a point and go, why didn't I get that it was a cube? Right? When I was drawing a circle. Just an elaborate example.
Yeah.
But if you trace back with that feedback, you can sometimes see where you've gone wrong and go, what was I? I remember I was getting, and then next time and over time it will become like muscle memory.
Yeah.
Just like grabbing a cup of coffee and putting it to your mouth.
And once again, the misses are how you learn that, hey, maybe you're not an object viewer.
Exactly.
You know?
And I love one of the phrases, and it's an old one, you learn by your mistakes.
Right.
But only if we backtrack, and again, the basketball court, to our mistakes, don't be ashamed of them.
Yeah.
Be proud of them. Own them.
Own
exactly.
them. It's
and
your mistake.
Look, and you will learn from that.
That's right.
And hopefully not replicate it in the future.
Well, you know, the example I give people all the time professionally is, announce your mistake.
Yes.
Own it. When you go to the person who's in charge of the mistake, don't just tell them that you made the mistake. A, own up to the mistake. B, now you have a solution for the mistake. Mm-hmm. This happened. I see why it happened. Next time we're going to do this.
Yeah.
So that is mitigated.
Exactly. We're going to apply something different, hopefully to avoid the mistake.
That's right.
Yeah,
to circumvent the mistake entirely.
And this is how things happen in life. Inventions of flight, right,
That's
brothers,
right.
and everything else. Well, because they make mistakes and then they learn from them.
And even in viewing, sometimes it's because you're rushing to get to the session before you're done with the pre-session protocol.
Yeah.
If you took more time on your self-check, and you took more time to get rid of stray cats in your head, situations that have happened that week, and deep dive into that before you ever deep dive into your session, you might get totally different data.
Total fine-tuning.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for the great wealth of knowledge that you poured on me in your class, because it really was, object-wise, a whole new lesson in how to view things, how to look at things. So I want to thank you for that.
Thanks,
Let
Chris.
everybody know where they can go to find out more about Vantage Point remote viewing, where they can go to take your classes.
So in-person and online training, vantagepointrv.com and vantagepointrv@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks,
as
mate.
always. While you are online checking out everything from Carl McClellan and Vantage Point Remote Viewing, everybody, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can like, follow, subscribe. That is where you can find all the episodes. That is where you can also find your copy of the Field Observation and Encounter Log, as well as the all-new Remote Viewing Session Journal. When we come back from this quick break, we will continue with our live on-site coverage of PSI Games 2025 right here in Charlottesville, Virginia, right after this.
The key to good science is good research. At the heart of good research is a good data set. With the Field Observation and Encounter Log from Curious Research, you can easily keep track of your investigative information all in one place, making it easier to review cases and readily see comparisons and contrasts between them. Whether out in the woods squatching, in a back room gathering EVPs, or using high-tech gear to track UFO, UAP activity, this easy-to-carry, pocket-sized scientific data log is the perfect companion for any field researcher. You can find your copy of the Curious Research Field Observation and Encounter Log at Amazon.com or visit the official Curious Realm store at CuriousRealm.com/store to reserve your copy for yourself, your family, or a mind that you want to open. That website again is CuriousRealm.com/store.